he was talking about his relationship with his fans. He explains why it's risky, to listen to fans or pay attention to certain constructive criticism or just anything that fans say. I'm going to read a passage as to what he said in an interview. Because one thing I've learned as an artist is you got to limit the amount of feedback you take in from fans. He said, because you can drive yourself crazy trying to please them. Just do you. And then he says they will get used to a certain sound or flow and then ask you to go back to an old style that you used to rap like, and then you'll be confused. He said most of the super critics don't even be true rap fans because the core fan base is going to feel you no matter how you come or however you come up with your product. So I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because I know there are so many artists out here that thrive off their core fan base. Think about someone like 𝗏9. Like 𝗏9 is a legend on underground based off his fan base. He has a cult following, period. He can go anywhere. After all the COVID and stuff goes away, Emma's going to be able to tour and continue to do what he does. And I don't think he got that way by not listening, quote unquote, to his fans.
I think
from an artist, you think he did?
Yeah.
I think he got that way.
Fans don't have anything to do with like how he makes his music and what he puts out and all that stuff. Fans.
So let me ask you this, Long.
Fans like him for him.
Let me ask you this, Long. You be an artist, you'll be able to relate. How do you feel about what Polo G said? Like, do you think it's good to pay attention to your core fan base, or just do you and go with the punches that comes with it? Like, how do you feel about what he said?
No, I agree with him. I mean, okay. I don't think as an artist you should ever get a whole bunch of yes men in your quarter that rock with you and then just do kind of what they say. If I'm not saying that doesn't mean that you can't listen to like what people are saying they like and don't like, but if you're gonna stay true to your artistry and the things that you're gonna do, people are going to rock with you when they rock with you, and then they're not when they don't like what you're doing. And so, no, I don't think you can let that dictate your artistry. That is, if you are indeed doing artistry, as opposed to just trying to follow what is the most relevant hot thing going on right now. You know what I mean? So. Which I don't necessarily consider artistry. So that's the way I feel about it. But
So you don't think him saying that you don't think there's going to be a pocket or a small pocket or handful of fans that might feel a certain way based off what he said, regards to what he said? You don't think so? Or does that even matter?
It doesn't matter. If they feel that way and they're going to get offended by it, then they can, feel that way. That's their right as well. But his artistry and the things that he makes that brought those people to him in the first place, I mean, that's his. I mean, of course you share it with everybody, but yeah, I mean, you can't please everyone. And once you go down that path, then you start to have to pick and choose like which people you listen to and all this other stuff. It's just like, nah, like you have your people in your corner, the people that are really in your corner as far as when you are creating. And you work with them, and then everything else is just kind of noise, in my opinion.
Okay, I can dig it. Jay Diff, jump in, man. What do you think about that fan relationship? Should artists pay more attention to what they say and constructive criticisms, etc., or should they continue to be free and do them, but still embrace their fans?
I mean, at the end of the day, there's a reason why the artist has fans, and it's based off of them creating that that artist themselves, which is themselves, to make what fans want to hear. But at the same time, before he had fans, he was already doing what he was doing. So I don't see why you would have to necessarily change what you're doing based off of fandom. I can understand like hearing them out. I mean, because fans are part of the reason that you're here. to keep you afloat.
But I don't think he's saying changing per se his product. I just think he's talking about the concept of actually even acknowledging what some of his fans have to say versus just being him and locking in as an artist. You follow me? I think he's
well, the thing about it is, if you're constantly chasing what somebody else is telling you to do or wanting you to do, then in the same token, you're leaving out the people that are going to ride with you regardless. So there's no way that you're going to be able to balance that out. But the easiest thing to do would be to just tune it all out and let everybody that's going to be a part of the ride keep on moving. I mean, because you have artists like, I remember when Eminem used to get a lot of flack about his style. Then he changed it on that Recovery album and they killed him. Then he went back to his original format and they still had something to say. I mean, he's still an artist that's going to be successful regardless. But this is just an example of somebody that's trying to fit that mode of what the artist, or not the artist, what the fans want you to do, and they're still not pleased by it. So it's a slippery slope when it comes to trying to make yourself that accessible to people that you call your fans in order to dictate what kind of music or what direction you should go. Because at the end of the day, being an artist is out here to create, and you're supposed to take whatever they give you. You don't have to like it, but I mean, that's the artist in itself.
I can dig it. Jay Moore, jump in there, man. Talk about that relationship, man. Paying attention versus just being a creative and embracing, who's going to rock with you moving forward.
Well, Jay said it, I'm paraphrasing here. You want the old Jay, go buy my old albums, if you want Reasonable Doubt, Jay-Z, go listen to Reasonable Doubt, artists grow, what you're doing one day, it may not be even something that you feel the next day. I watched the Beastie Boys documentary on Apple TV, and what they did on License to Ill compared to basically everything else from the rest of their career is completely different. From the time they made that album, in the time they were making that album, they had grown up and they had different interest in what they wanted to do, to the point where it just, it got to a point where they didn't even perform the songs off of License to Ill, because that just wasn't the mind space that they were in. And, a lot of people, they thought they think they know you, when they saw Fight for Your Right to Party, they thought that's who they were. And really that song was made as a joke. And instead of people taking it as a joke, they thought, okay, these are the beer drinking frat boys that, are just wilding out. And that's just who they thought they were. And they're like, they got tired of being these caricatures of themselves. And that's what happens a lot of times with artists is, you'll show up somewhere and someone fell in love with a thugged out image of you from one point or another when you was wild, and they don't realize you're a family man now and that you have, interests that do not have anything to do with who you were 10 years ago. I'm not saying this for Polo G. I'm not that familiar with his music, but that could be, where his mindset is at. People want to grow up. And people want to experience new things and express new ideas. If you're always trying to A&R somebody's record based off of a past sound or based off of what you want them to be, then you're always, it'll probably stifle you as an artist because you're trying to appease people as opposed to actually creating art and, be creative. I think that's where a lot of artists are like, okay, well, this is what they want. They want to hear me be on some super soulful stuff. I might want to be thugged out, or the vice versa. I might want to be thugged out and talk about the streets, but they want to hear me talk about, sunshine and waterfalls and butterflies and whatnot. I mean, I think that's what happens with a lot of artists, and it goes, and the thing is, this is, I know we've had this conversation before. I think the saddest thing is a lot of times it really rears its head with female artists, female hip hop artists, to where, what if Rhapsody wants to do some joints where she's partying? Everybody wants her, people who are fans of her, they want to hear her do, deep conscious hip hop I saw her in an interview. She said, I go to a party. I want to put my ass on somebody's son too. You know what I'm saying? I'm not.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
At the same time, you have, part of the thing that might frustrate somebody like a Nicki Minaj or a Megan Thee Stallion is that, and Megan touched on this on the end of her, most recent project is like, well, they're just here for me to talk about sex and shake my ass. So that's what I'm going to give them. It's almost kind of cynical way to see things. But, this is the how artists get pigeonholed, because I don't want to say they shouldn't think about their public and their fans. But when you think about them too much to the point where you're not creating, then I think that's where, you a lot of times that's when you find yourself on the outside looking in, because you've thought too much about your what you did to make fans like you initially, and they may have moved on. They've grown up.
I think as a creative, and we're all creatives in our own right. I think as a creative, you want to always leave it open. Like the creativity, you want to always leave the options open for what you can do, cannot do. So like, if Lone and I are collaborating on something for section leaders and we're working on something, like if somebody's just giving us multiple pointers or saying you guys should do this or you guys should do that, I can't speak for him, but I've known him well enough to know to be like, wait a minute, whoa, chill. Like, this is our creative space. This is our process. This is what we do. Just let us live and be able to, grow as artists and do what we do. So I understand that part, because far be it from somebody to come into a session where I'm working on something and be like, hey, I think you should, or this or that. Like I get that part, but the actual relationship with the client, I'm thinking about if I'm working, relationship with the fan, sometimes it can be fragile. You know what I'm saying? So I think, with Polo G actually saying what he's saying, he's acknowledging that he's kind of torn, but he actually learned like, yo, I got to do me and just live with the results. Kind of like what Lone said. It's like, I got to be me, and whoever wants to stick around and whoever wants to rock with me will. At the end of the day, I'll have a core fan base. That to me defines a core fan base. No matter what you do, they're going to rock with you and support you. So, and if you pay attention to that and continue to move forward, I think that's dope. But I just found that interesting, man. I'm sorry, go ahead, Lone.
And even further, like fan bases in general, they ebb and flow, and like even the show, we can take the show, for example, like, so we typically have a handful of people that'll join us on the show, but maybe they won't join us for 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks.
All right.
And then other people will come in and then other people will leave. Then they'll come back when they want, or maybe they won't. I just watched a really cool, interesting video on cancel culture that talked about the different ways that people pay attention to different types of influencers and the difference between good and bad marketing, and sometimes how bad marketing is, or the perceived as bad marketing is a lot of times better than good marketing by moral standards, right? And everything does kind of move, and once you realize that you can't really control any of it at all, the only thing you can kind of control is how you attack things and the product that you put out, and making sure that what you're doing is what you want to do. And like if Johnny from Missouri really wants us to make a bunch of trap beats, and then tomorrow Johnny from Missouri no longer really listens to us anymore, then who did we just make music for? You know what I mean? Like, it's like we have to,
right there.
We have to pay attention to like what we want to do. We can listen to, there's nothing wrong with listening and conversing and having conversations and all that good stuff, and getting feedback and all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it's important for all artistic endeavors for the creator in that position to be able to have a handle and to not lose themselves in the process of what others expect from them. So.
Yeah,
I'm with it.
I G for that too, because you can't actually even as an artist coming up, if you were sitting around waiting on somebody to tell you what to do all the time, you have never made it to the place that you're at now. And a lot of times when artists drop those projects that people don't necessarily vibe with or resonate with, it's something that they had to do to get out. You know what I'm saying? So they can move on to their next creative space. Because if you're an artist and you have a creative block, and this is what's coming to you right now. Essentially, you got to get it out, whether you put it out or not. You at least got to get through that part and then move on to your next creative phase. So, I mean, that's with all artists in general too. That's why a lot of times the greatest artists, none of their projects sound the same, because they're constantly going through these flows of creativity, which makes them an artist. So just something to think about.
2 albums that come to mind for me for that are the epitome of that are is 808s and Heartbreaks. That's one. And I'm trying to think what the other one was that would be a good example. Electric Circus. Like those 2 projects to me were like, whoa. Okay, so now we're going completely left from the first, we'll call it 2 or 3, 4 albums or whatever, right?
But
And
you're still going to listen to the new. You're still going to listen to what they drop next, though.
I'm still going to listen to what they drop next. And I'm going to listen to the Curveball albums as well, because I had developed a bond with the artist. So it's like Electric Circus me off, but it wasn't like I wasn't trying to listen to it or I wasn't going to bang it. Like I still was going to listen to it. You know what I'm saying? But it was one of those joints, like Terry said, that's a good point. You had to get certain things out and then continue to move forward. So, those are 2 albums that come to mind with this whole conversation, because those are the ultimate curveballs when you talk about hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Like when Kanye did 808s coming off of Graduation, I don't know if you can get more left than that. You know what I'm saying, based off what he did, or Electric Circus, which would have come off. Help me out. What was what was prior to Electric Circus?
It was
I'm tripping.
Like Water for Chocolate.
Like Water for Chocolate. Thank you. So
and then
Lone
came after it.
Don't know about Like Water for Chocolate. We love that album. Like we got on the album at the
I love Electric Circus. So I mean,
Electric Circus.
Yeah, Electric Circus actually aged fairly well.
I was sleep out the gate, and Common is one of my favorite rappers. Lona tell you that we used to play Common and Like Water for Chocolate like it was going out of style.
He got albums right now that are way worse than that.
I agree 100%. I agree. I'm a Common fan. I agree 100%. But Like Water for, Electric Circus was not trash.
It was different. It was different at the time. At the time, you weren't expecting it. Yeah.
No, because once again, it was that expectation. We thought, okay, Common's in his pocket now, and we're going to get, like Water for Chocolate too. He's going to use that same formula for the next album, and he didn't. In fact, he didn't use any of the formulas from that album. And quite honestly, I always liked Electric Circus. I remember also I saw the Electric Circus tour. I know it sounds weird, but it's almost like if you saw the Electric Circus tour, you were going to love the album that much more. It was going to make sense to you.
I just thought it was ahead of its time.
It was just something. And the thing is, that's where because 𝗀 𝗀 opened up for him, and this unknown dude named Kanye West got to touch the stage during that same Electric Circus tour. And it was funny, like I remember the venue I was at called the Pageant in St. Louis. Like Kanye West was just walking around trying to get people to notice him. Like he wasn't, he was on his flip phone with his Rockefeller chain.
That was right before College Dropout came out too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, people knew him as a producer. Me and my man Brian, we were like, oh shoot, there goes Kanye West. But it was not like people were running up on him at the time, because at that point, oh yeah, he's the guy who did some production for Jay-Z and Beanie Siegel.
Right.
Yeah, like he was like, you ever listen to Little Brother tell that story about how they did I See Now. Like they were hype about seeing a Rockefeller chain. Like they were at a music conference or something like that, and he wasn't Kanye yet. Like they played him College Dropout and all that type of stuff. So that's a good story, Jay Moore. I didn't think about that. That's real.
If you've enjoyed this segment of the New Old Heads podcast, make sure to check out our live show every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern at twitch.tv/newoldheads. And if you'd like to join our Discord community, do so by going to nohchat.com for talks on hip-hop, sports, music, news, and everything else.